Welcome to Forensic Science Sunday, where I tell you one true crime case that was solved using forensic science, all while doing, that's right, my makeup. Today's video will be featuring the Age of Opulance palette from Beauty Bay. I'm so excited about this palette. This is my Christmas gift to myself. It has all of my favorite colors in it, in jewel toned at that. Oh, you guys know I'm like, All the other items I'm using in this video will be linked in the description below. Please read the disclaimer. I am not a professional forensic pathologist, nor am I a professional makeup artist, okay? If you couldn't tell already. I'm just the average girl at home like you, planning my makeup and talking about true crime. Sometimes I do my nails. So if that's something that you are into, if you are a true crime lover, then you are going to enjoy my channel, and you are more than welcome to hit that subscribe button. Quick reminder, the comment section is a privilege. And you guys been doing really well down there. Don't fuck it up. Now let's get into today's case. This all takes place in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania in 1990, where 32-year-old Bobby Curley lived with his family. His family would describe Bobby as a very fun-loving guy. They said he was super caring. So Bobby was this type of guy. Everybody loved to be around him. He had a lot of friends. He would make jokes often. His little brother described him as the best big brother ever. And his sister said he was just a joy to be around. He was just such a caring person. He would oftentimes take trips with his little brother up to Canada twice a year, and they would go fishing. Cared for his family a lot. He really looked out, especially for his sister and his mother. And he himself wanted to have a family someday. He loved children. He adored them. He just wanted to find the girl of his dreams, get married, and have children. Bobby was dating a woman named Joanne, and Joanne had a 4-year-old daughter named Angela that she had from a previous marriage. Bobby and Joanne had been dating for a year at this point. Joanne was a widow. Her husband had died in a car crash. Her and Bobby had started dating after her husband had passed away. And Bobby absolutely loved Angela. He loved her as his own daughter, and he was really looking forward to stepping into that father figure role for Angela. You know, him being a family guy. This is like everything that he wanted. So in August of 2000, what? No. In August of 1990, the two got married. According to the attendees of the wedding, it was a very lovely wedding. It was beautiful, and it really captured the personalities of two fun-loving individuals getting married and coming into union together. Joanne's last name was Joanne Chopek from her previous marriage. I think I forgot to tell you guys that. His family really took to Joanne as well, and his parents gave him their blessing, gave the couple their blessing, and they just felt like it was time for, you know, their little baby to grow up, move out, and have a life of his own, basically. Everyone was so happy for Bobby because finally he had met the girl of his dreams. The newlywed couple and their young child ended up moving into Joanne's home, which was the home she shared with her previous husband, and it was on a quiet street in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania. So things were really coming together. Now Bobby, he worked for a company called the Morgan Corporation. He worked there as an electrician. Now it was said that Bobby didn't really like school. He was not a huge fan of like college or anything like that. But, you know, he wanted to take care of his family and provide for them. So he did work really hard. He went back to school, and he was able to get a degree so that he could get, you know, a better position. In spring, are we really doing this today, guys? Are we really? In spring of 1991, Bobby and his company ended up getting this major job for some sort of chemistry lab They were supposed to go in and renovate the entire chemistry lab. According to one of Bobby's co-workers, he said that when they got this job, they were told that the lab would be cleared out for them to do their renovation. But when they got to this lab, it was completely trashed. There was garbage and bottles everywhere. There was toxic chemicals spilled and left out. There were, stuff that shouldn't have been out, left out, that was toxic as your ex is toxic, girl. Left out, laying around, spilled on the counters, like all type of stuff, I would have left there immediately. I would have been like, you know what? No, my life ain't worth it. You can keep that job. Thank you. I may have put too much, but at this point we're already in. You know when you do something and like you went too far, if it was too much, but you just keep going because it's like, I already did it, so I kind of have to commit to the assery that I started. And that's what's happening right now. 3 months after they had started this job at this chemistry lab, Bobby was hanging out with his brother, and they were at a local bar getting some drinks, having a beer or two, when Bobby suddenly became ill. Bobby wanted to leave the bar like just after one drink because he really was not feeling well at all. He said that his feet were burning and he had such a terrible pain in his feet. When you have that gut feeling that like something isn't right, even though people be trying to tell you like, no, everything's okay, you're all right, and you're like, no, I'm telling you, my body, something's not right. His brother was so concerned, like he's never seen Bobby act this way before. He also complained that he had numbness in his hands and, just something was wrong. Now, I would say that this sounds a little bit like a panic attack, just because I've had panic attacks before and I've experienced this. Bobby went to Wilkes-Barre local hospital and they diagnosed him with Guillen-Barre Syndrome. This is a very rare syndrome. The symptoms do cause your hands and feet to go numb and some burning. And although, it can be severe at times, most patients recover from it. So it's not something that is like deadly. That covers it up pretty good though. I like that. That's the gotcha covered. Next. So a few days later, Bobby's condition got better and they released him from the hospital. But then when he went home, things got worse. The pain came back. It was really bad and he was vomiting and he had diarrhea and it was really, really intense, to the point where he couldn't even walk. His brother and his sister that was caring for him at the time had to physically lift him up and take him to the bathroom so that he could use the bathroom. Basically, he couldn't even walk, he couldn't move, he couldn't do anything. And his sister says that when she got him, she took him to the bathroom and then she took him back to the room and he told her, listen, I need you to call the ambulance because something like, can you please get the ambulance? Something is wrong. She said he looked at her and said, Sue, please call the paramedics. I mean, yeah. So the ambulance came and got Bobby and they took him to a hospital, but this time they took him to a regional hospital, where they have like better technology for this type of stuff. They said it was about 100 miles away, so that was pretty far. When he got to the hospital, he was so bad that he was hallucinating, you guys. He was starting to see things. And the doctor had to order them to restrain him because that's how bad his hallucinations were. I can't even imagine how horrifying that must have been for him, just like not just being super sick like that, but also hallucinating and seeing things. Like his family kept thinking that he was just gonna get better, but he didn't. He just kept getting worse and his health just deteriorated. And his mom says that he was so uncomfortable the entire time for obvious reasons. He could not sit, he could not stand, he couldn't lay on his side or his back. He was just in so much pain. At that point, I feel like I would have been like, pull the plug on me, because I do not want to die from shitting myself and vomiting myself, and just pull the fucking plug. Maybe that's too much. That's probably too far. You guys are probably like, Sahara, that's too far. Shush. Bobby's doctor really couldn't figure out what was wrong with him, because all the tests he performed on Bobby came back regular, just normal. But from what he was seeing from Bobby, he thought Bobby was dying. Like he was like, something's wrong here. This man is dying. The doctor at this regional hospital also noticed that Bobby had began to lose his hair, which is something that hadn't happened before. The falling out of the hair and the numbness in the hands and feet and the burning in the feet, this is all symptoms of arsenic poisoning. So his doctor began to think it was something to do with poisoning. So the doctor had a urine test performed on Bobby, and it came back that exactly the way the doctor suspected, that he had been poisoned, but with thallium. Now, thallium is a poison that is commonly found in rat poison. It actually is rat poison. It can be ingested, inhaled, and even absorbed into the skin. There's no known cure for poisoning by thallium. Thallium usually doesn't show up on toxicology reports. In the 1970s, it was banned in the United States. This type of poisoning has to be built up in the system for a lengthy period of time in order for it to become hazardous to someone. At this point, the doctor realized that there was nothing he could do, that Bobby was going to die, and so he brought the family into his office. According to Sue, Bobby's sister, she remembers that day when the doctor brought them into his office and explained to them what was going on. And she said that the doctor actually pointed to all of the degrees he had on his wall and said, "Do you see all of these? Not one of them could save your brother. He is going to die." I can't even imagine hearing that. I would just be like in utter despair and shock. Like, wait a minute, what? You can't save him, and none of the degrees you have can save him. Sadly, on September 26, Bobby Curley did go into a coma. He had basically pretty much passed away because there was no more brain activity detected from the doctors, and he was just on life support. His family had to make the difficult decision to pull him off life support. Most of his family members actually left the room because they couldn't just stay in the room and watch the doctors pull his life support. But Joanne did, his wife Joanne, she did stay in the room with Bobby as he was taken off of life support. It's difficult to judge this type of behavior because I don't know, I just, on one end, I don't know how I would be able to stand in a room and watch my brother be taken off of life support. But then on the other end, I don't know how I could leave him in there alone. So it's a difficult thing to judge her behavior and actions. But a lot of the family members, especially Sue, Bobby's sister, didn't really like this. She thought that it was kind of odd. On the autopsy report, the cause of death was listed as thallium poisoning. The hospital did contact the Occupational Safety and Health Administration to see if they could do some sort of investigation. They wanted to see if he had gotten poisoned while working at that chemistry lab, because that chemistry lab was dirty. It was messy, it wasn't right, it was hazardous. So the scientists went in doing their investigation and they tested the air in the lab. They also dusted down a few of the items in the lab to see if, there was any thallium on it. They also ended up testing all of Bobby's co-workers. They wanted to see if any of them had been exposed to thallium as well, since they worked in the lab too. And one of the workers had mentioned that, the place was a mess in that lab, and that one time while he was working in the lab, he saw a cloth sitting on the counter and it said hazardous or danger, thallium. touch and be killed or something like that. Crazy. Like, however, when their test came back, it came back negative for any thallium in the air inside the lab. It also came back negative for any of his co-workers having thallium in their system. So none of his co-workers had thallium in their system. It's kind of weird, because if it was in the lab and that amount in the lab to make him that ill, then some of the other workers that were in the lab should have also had a similar experience, or at least been exposed to thallium. This told them that however Bobby had come in contact with thallium, it was not in that lab. Bobby's wife, Joanne, told investigators that he had brought home some cabinets from the lab previously, and she was going to be throwing them away. So they also tested these cabinets as well. Even the cabinets came back negative for traces of thallium, which is crazy. So concerned, Joanne requested to be tested as well, and her daughter Angela's test came back positive for thallium. But they found very little thallium in their systems. It was not enough to cause any harm. It was like a harmless amount of thallium, and it wouldn't have caused any side effects to the degree that Bobby was experiencing, for sure. How in the hell did Joanne and Angela, her daughter, get thallium in their systems when that's so... Okay, let's finish. We'll figure it out. During their investigation, police did search the Curleys' home. They did find traces of thallium in the home. They found it in 2 different thermoses. One was a large thermos that Bobby carried to work with him almost every day. And the other one was a smaller thermos. He would fill these thermoses with iced tea because he loved iced tea. And both of the thermoses came back positive for traces of thallium. Investigators also tested all of the people that Bobby knew who were around him during this time to see if, they had been exposed to thallium as well. But all of their tests came back negative. The only people who had been around Bobby that seemed to have been exposed to thallium was his wife and his daughter. At this point, police began to suspect foul play, and they started to look into Bobby's co-workers to see perhaps maybe they may have had something to do with this. Maybe they planted something in his drink. They weren't quite sure who had poisoned him, but they knew that he had been poisoned. They knew that the thermoses he used were only carried between his work and his home. So it had to be one of those places and people that would be at one of those places. And they found out that Bobby actually had recently gotten a promotion at the company that he was working for, and he had only been working there for a short time, and there had been people working at that company way before him that was a lot older than him, and definitely felt that they qualified for the position over him. And they also spoke up and out about that, saying how they felt that they qualified for the position more than Bobby did. So there was some jealousy going on in his workplace, and police also thought that it could have been a practical joke gone wrong between the co-workers, because oftentimes Bobby was the victim of some very cruel pranks. Oftentimes his co-workers would put different spices into his food, like hot chili pepper into his meal, or they would spike, his drink with some sort of laxative or something like that. So police were thinking maybe this is what happened. Maybe somebody was playing a practical joke on him. Maybe someone put thallium into his drink thinking that they were putting Valium in there. Police were thinking, I don't know how you can mix up the two, but it's a possibility, I guess. But the weird thing was, like I said, nobody at his job had any thallium in their system, so they weren't exposed to it. So you would think if someone from his job put thallium into his drink that they were exposed to it as well, so it would be in their system as well. So as you can imagine, at this point, everything is pointing to Joanne or her daughter Angela, and I don't think a 4-year-old would know how to poison somebody. Joanne Joanne, what did you do? Because everything is pointing back to you, baby girl. So we need to get this straightened out. The family was feeling the same way. They grew very suspicious of Joanne because everything was pointing back to her. At this point, investigators had eliminated every single suspect that they had and every single possibility outside of Joanne. Like, everything pointed to Joanne. Now it's time to go into the palette. But anyway, back to the story. You guys gave me a little technique tip and I'm going to use it today. You guys told me to put down the darker shade first and then the lighter shades to sort of blend it out. So I'm gonna try it. I don't know how I'm gonna do, but let's try it out. Like I stated earlier, they did find traces of thallium in 2 of the thermoses in the home, and one of those thermoses, the smaller one, actually stayed at home. I believe that they said that Bobby didn't really take that thermos to work. When police spoke with Joanne, she had a really good explanation as to how the poison had gotten into both thermoses. She said that one day when Bobby returned home from work, she poured some of the leftover iced tea from his large thermos into the smaller thermos and stored it into the refrigerator for later, and that her and her daughter may or may not have drunken, is it drunken or drinking? I know y'all gonna get me, y'all gonna check me. It's probably drinking. Her and her daughter may have consumed some of that iced tea later on, and that is probably how the thallium got into their systems. See, that's why I like to lay down the lighter shade so I can kind of, know where I'm putting it, and then go in with the darker shade, because once you put that dark down, that's about it, baby. You kind of like, you in, okay? Now, according to her, she did not want the iced tea to go to waste, and that is the reason why she decided to save it and store it for later. The district attorney had Bobby's body exhumed for a second autopsy report. They also brought in a forensic toxicologist. The toxicologist analyzed Bobby's hair. When chemical substances such as thallium is circulating in the bloodstream, it will most oftentimes attach itself to the root of the hair follicles. Hair root is a cell, and hair grows at the average rate of 1.3 centimeters a month. This means it can carry up to 6 months of medical history. Next, the forensic toxicologist used segmental analysis of the hair. This is basically where they take a follicle of hair and cut it into smaller pieces. He then analyzed the pieces using a process called atomic absorption spectrophotometry. That was a mouthful, girl. This test revealed which sections of the hair contain thallium and which did not. Then they put the test up against a calendar to show the timeline of when he consumed the thallium. It showed that he had been exposed to thallium 2 months after he had gotten married. Girl, you about to get caught. You about to get caught. In fact, he had been poisoned for a year. And not only that, he received his largest dose of thallium while he was in the hospital dying. They actually found a large dose in his intestines. Now, they learned this because they were taking a look at his intestines, and the largest dose seemed to settle down there, which meant that he was pretty much already a goner when he took, I hate to say goner, is that disrespectful? I'm sorry. He was pretty much already dead when he took that huge dose. Now, according to this forensic toxicologist, the amounts of poison in his intestines was 1,000 times higher than the amount they found in his blood. Then police discovered even more incriminating evidence against Joanne. They were able to narrow down and eliminate suspects using the time map that Bobby ingested the poison. They ran tests on all of these suspects to see if they had thallium in their systems, and they all came up negative, except of course Joanne and her daughter, like I said before. Police were looking for a motive because at this point they really didn't have one. Like, why, if she did kill Bobby, why? So they started to dig a little bit deeper into Bobby and Joanne's relationship. That is when they found out that their relationship may have not been that good, because Bobby had been making comments to his sister earlier on. I believe his sister Sue said he was making comments to her about a month or two after they had gotten married, that like he said something under his breath one time like, "I wish I hadn't gotten married," which is odd for a newlywed. With further investigation, police found that Bobby had made Joanne sole beneficiary of his life insurance policy just a couple of months after they had gotten married. Bingo. Well, I guess we figured out what the motive was. It's always money or sex or, somebody else. Investigators knew that they were on to something. You know what? I wonder what actually happened to her other husband. They should investigate that. Police thought that this was a definite motive for Joanne to want Bobby dead, and Joanne became their prime suspect in the case. It would take investigators 5 years after Bobby's death to solve the case. Wow, I don't know. Ooh, child, these lashes are irritating. I don't know if it's the glue or what. On December 12th, 1996, Joanne Curley was arrested and charged with first-degree murder. To avoid a life sentence and a possible death sentence, Joanne took a plea deal. She pleaded guilty to third-degree murder, which is a lesser charge. She confessed everything in court. She told them that she had in fact been poisoning her husband Bobby for some time. She said that she started poisoning him 2 months after they were married with rat poison that she found in her grandmother's basement. Girl. She said that she started adding the poisoning to Bobby's drinks 2 months after they were married. She would add it to his iced tea, but she started to up the dosages when she got nervous that it wasn't working. When they asked her why she had done it, she was very, very clear about it. She said, simply for money. Something ain't right. I don't feel like it's a coincidence that 2 of her husbands ended up dead. You know what I'm saying? So prosecutors also theorized that she had ingested the poison herself and gave a little bit to her daughter to throw police off. But when they asked her about this, she denied it. She said that she has no idea how the thallium got into her or her daughter's system. Like, she doesn't know how they were exposed to it. Since it can be inhaled and also absorbed into the skin, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised that that's the way it happened. Maybe she wasn't trying to throw police off and gave, because that's sick, dude. Like, you that dedicated where you're gonna poison yourself and your child? I don't know. I feel like probably they got exposed to it when she was putting it into Bobby's drinks, and probably the baby was around, or I keep saying the baby, the child. She was 4. And you guys aren't gonna like this ending. You're not gonna like this ending. I know you guys are not gonna like this. Thanks to forensic science and some good police work, Joanne Curley was convicted of third-degree murder and sentenced to 10 to 20 years in prison. I told you, you guys were not gonna like this one. Me either. I definitely think that she should have gotten life in prison, but it is what it is. They offered her a deal, she took it. Joanne Curley was released in 2016. She is now a free woman. What did you guys think about this case and my makeup look? Please let me know in the comments down below. If you like videos like these, you can check out my last episode. I'll leave a link on the screen right here or right here. Like, comment, subscribe, and share. Please share because it really helps me out. And I'll see you guys next week with another Forensic Friday, Saturday, or Sunday episode. Bye!